So I would also like to express my thanks to IPA and the Office for Prevention and Women's Equalities at DHHS as collaborative partners for today's forum. I think the coming together of our three bits and our three organisations just really provides such a wealth of knowledge and depth and expertise, and you're going to see that throughout the sessions today. So today's forum it's our fifth, but it's our second in the Policy and Practice for Gender Equality series for 2018. And I warmly welcome all of you. And I met some of you on the way in when we were all trying to figure out how to get around the Treasury Cafe blockade up there. People who are working on the ground, out in the regions, doing respectful relationship work. So there's people from all sorts of sectors here, from state and local government, women's health, corporate, disability, academia, sorry, sound like a macadamia there, youth, education, sport, and the ever-growing PVOR sector as well. I just thank you for being here today and your work and the work that we're all doing together to make Victoria a more equitable place. And for me, it's days like today that vividly illustrate the overriding commitment and energy in Victoria for gender equality. Your attendance at these forums and your attendance here today as our weather gets just that extra bit colder in Melbourne, it's a real marker of the ever-growing momentum for change and that building of momentum across all of the places where we live, learn, love, work and play. In other words, in all of those settings where our culture and the norms are shaped and reinforced. So individuals who witness or hear about sexism, discrimination and harassment are commonly referred to as bystanders. Proactive bystander action aims to shift the culture and includes challenging behaviour, attitudes, practices or policies that contribute to sexism, discrimination or violence against women. And when we talk about bystander action at the primary prevention end of the spectrum, we're not focusing on getting physically involved in a violent situation. So let's just be clear about that. Rather, bystander action in this context includes a much broader range of responsibilities and actions. For example, confronting a friend or a colleague who continually makes sexist jokes. Talking to your manager if women are being treated unfairly in the workplace. Challenging spectators or players who use sexist sledging on or off the sports field. Or in my case, when I go to my gym, that is a really kind of hardcore personal training gym with a whole lot of blokes. It's those conversations when you're standing there with the dumbbells in your hand. It's challenging those places where people are living their lives and challenging that behaviour at that moment. The work also focuses on the kind of systems and policy change that can enable more confident and forthright action that promotes respect towards women and that sees gender equality as the norm rather than the exception. And I think we won't tolerate anything less, but as Nellie said, we have to be humble on that journey and we have to also be tolerant on that journey as well. VicHealth's work in bystander action started over 10 years ago, and it grew out of that sense of urgency that we felt organisationally about what could we do to motivate people to engage more actively in challenging gender discrimination and the passive acceptance of everyday sexism and harassment that women were experiencing. And that sense of urgency came from the fact that we knew that it was the passive acceptance of these behaviours that ultimately led to the intolerable high rates of violence against women. We know that too many Victorians were not necessarily recognising the serious impact that these acts of everyday sexism have. And it was the passive acceptance, the trivialising of such acts that, left unchallenged, contributes to a violent supportive culture. By making the clear link between these behaviours as the underlying drivers of violence against women, we know we can empower Victorians to take a stand and say enough is enough. So equipped with our original literature review that Nellie talked about, and data from a community survey that helped determine the Victorian community's readiness for action, we actually began to develop a whole series of pilots in workplaces, in sports organisations and in local government as our testing grounds. And from these pilots, a series of evidence-based trials, and we did some evidence-based training modules, some web-based video resources and tools, have certainly deepened our knowledge of the conditions that best enable bystander action. And you can find at the web address on the screen, I don't know if I should touch that or someone else should touch that. Oh, there I am. Okay, there you go. So take a little photo of that, because that's where you will find those resources. The knowledge and sophistication of the bystander work in Victoria has certainly grown over recent years, as has the appetite across many sectors to undertake training and embed bystander approaches, due in no small part to the work of so many of you in the room today, and I want to call that out and thank you for that. And it's such a tribute to so many of your organisations that we've had such a challenge in setting the parameters of this morning's forum. At VicHealth, we're really pleased to be part of the important network of agencies who are driving bystander work across Victoria. And the forum today provides us with an exciting opportunity to hear about the Victorian Government's latest investments in bystander work, including an update on the current media campaign from Denise Lachlan, the Assistant Director, who I introduced before and welcomed before. We're also excited to welcome the Victorian Public Sector Commissioner, Dr Paul Grimes, today, who will talk about leadership being shown by the Commission in promoting a proactive bystander culture with the recently released statement and work underway to address sexual harassment. Welcome. We will also share with you today emerging work to equip individuals, organisations and systems to promote proactive bystander culture. And you will have an opportunity to share some of your own experiences and insights through both the dynamic playback theatre session and the final Q&A session with many of our panel speakers. Last year, VicHealth partnered with the Office for Prevention and Women's Equality and Deakin University and the Behavioural Insights team, or BIT as I shall call them from now on, to understand with a much more sophisticated lens the latest evidence and its implications for bystander action. And because of this work, we now have the most up-to-date paper produced by Deakin that provides a synthesis of the research related to bystander action, with a focus on the primary prevention, violence against women and family violence. This report is now available, and I'll just get the screen people to do one more click. It's now up on our website under the More Than Ready link on the screen. And if they're not going to do it, I'll do it. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. One more that way, I think. Oh, it's there, sorry. It just went a bit early. So I saw all your phones up before, so I know you've got that. But it is a brand new resource that we really do hope that you will find useful. The BIT team are at the forefront, certainly, of applying this latest evidence to policy and practice, and they're devising new approaches to encourage bystander action in the face of sexist behaviours and sexual harassment in Victoria, alongside a rigorous evaluation framework. And we're thrilled to be entering into phase 2 of this exciting initiative, and thanks to further funding from DHHS for this work. And over the next 12 months, we're going to work with BIT to deliver 2 trials to eliminate barriers to effective bystanding in the tertiary education setting here in Victoria. You'll hear more today from Dr Nikki Quinn and Dr Rory Gallagher from the BIT team about some of the principles and theories that underpin that work, and we hope that this will give you a taste on some of the latest thinking on addressing the barriers and enablers to bystander action against sexist behaviours and sexual harassment. Seeing the powerful response that we've had from our series of forums over the last 2 years, I really do have no doubt that those winds of change are truly upon us, and the momentum in Victoria continues to build towards a society where violence against women is a thing of the past. And with each new evidence-based initiative, it supports us in all our work towards a more just, healthy and gender equitable society. And finally, to that end, I now have the great pleasure of inviting you to hear about the latest findings today and providing you with the space to think about how this work can inform your own policy and practice agenda. And I think for those of you in the room who have stood up in that uncomfortable space of bystander action, you know how hard it can be. And certainly the playback theatre session after morning tea, I want to urge you to take the opportunity to explore in a really safe space both the everyday and lived experiences and impacts of gender discrimination and the kind of bystander action in response to sexism and harassment. I certainly want to thank each and every one of you for your attendance here today, and I do wish you a very thought-provoking morning. Thank you.